Hello and welcome. Happy Thursday. Thank you for being here with us today. I am so excited to continue our discussion related to the MBA application journey, particularly the 2024-2025 application cycle. So if you are part of this group of applicants who is starting the preparation or has already started the preparation and is looking for some guidance in terms of crafting your story, well, then you are in the right place. So welcome. If you're watching this live, again, thank you for being here and supporting our channel. And if you are watching this as a replay, please please let us know what you think. Give the video a thumbs up if you like it. And also share with others in your community who are going through the same process. So every Thursday we talk about the MBA application, so a given topic on the journey to your MBA. Today we're talking about Columbia Business Schools, so CBS MBA application cycle. They have released deadlines, they have released the questions, which is obviously makes these conversations much more solid in terms of guidance in that regard. So before we get started, before I bring my presentation on the screen, I just wanted to talk a bit about logistics. So the session is about 30 minutes in length. I will anchor our conversation in terms of having some slides to discuss. Ask your questions along the way, and I'll be able to, interact with you along, and this way I can answer some of your most pressing questions. If you are still in the process of not knowing if you are a competitive M7 top 20 MBA candidate, then I invite you to take our quiz. This is a quiz where you answer a couple of questions, and we then dive into essentially a two-part response. So the first response is you get a numeric value in terms of your competitiveness, and the second response is a written report from me that dives deeper into your responses and provides some commentary on what are some of your strengths and what are some of the weaknesses that you have to mitigate or you have to be mindful of as you put together your applications. So I really encourage you to go use the link that's on the screen, or just if you go to our cadmissions.com website, and if you look at free resources, you will find the quiz link there as well. The other component that I wanted to also invite you to is I do offer consultation calls for those candidates who are thinking about working with coaches. This is an opportunity for you to share your story, to see if we're a good match, to see if my approach is something that matches with yours. And as far as what you're looking for from a consultant, those are 30-minute conversations, and I'll put the link on the screen. You can request a consultation directly from the website, and we should get on a call soon to discuss your stories. And then finally, next week, I'll be talking about the Wharton MBA application. So I invite you to register for that event, ask your questions along the way as far as what you're looking to learn from that conversation. Wharton also has their application deadlines and questions released. So it's a great time to, discuss specific questions that you have, especially if you already started the application preparation process. Okay, so with that, why don't we get started? I'm just going to bring the presentation on the screen for today's session. So for those who do not know me, I am the founder of CA Admissions. My area of expertise is helping applicants tell their story to business schools. The focus is really on being authentic, diving deeper into your story, selecting the experiences that make you stand out, that make you different, that differentiate you from other candidates. And that is a very comprehensive, I go through a very comprehensive process to, one, get to know you, and then two, select the relevant stories and guide you along the way. So again, you can learn more about that on my website, cadmissions.com, or you can, of course, we can dive deeper in more details than what's on the website through a call with me. So today we're going to talk about content related to Colombia. So we're looking at the numbers in terms of what the class profile looks like. It's really important to keep those in mind. Not that you have to be exact replica of those numbers, but rather to know where you stack up. If there are areas that need development, then some other areas need to be stronger than others, right? So you always want to know where you are standing in comparison to others as well. We're going to look at the evaluation criteria, the application components, and of course, Q&A if we get the chance. Applications for Colombia have become quite extensive in terms of content. So I will try to, provide as much information without diving too much into the minutia, which of course takes us over the 30-minute allotted time for today. So Columbia has two ways of entry into the Columbia Business School, and one is the August term. This is the traditional 2-year program, and the other one is the January term. This one is for individuals who are not really looking to or don't need necessarily the summer internship and can go through the summer to complete the MBA program with their August term cohort as well. So those are the two entry ways into Columbia, and then combined, it's about 900 students that will be part of your class. It's very, very large in terms of class size, but they do a really good job in breaking you down into clusters and learning teams, just like other schools do, to provide a more intimate experience. The GPA for the average class is 3.5. GMAT, this is the legacy edition, it's 730. And they don't disclose the GRE, but you can assume that it's in line with the other schools in terms of 162 quant, 162 verbal. That has been my experience with clients as well. That's been in terms of like where they need to stack up to be able to convert. Not always the case, of course. There's always those who have lower scores, but have really amazing stories that compensates for the GRE. Excellent. So the deadlines for the August entry are out. The deadlines for January 2026 entry are not out yet. So you can mark your calendars for September 4th as your deadline for Columbia as round 1, January 3rd for round 2, April 2nd for round 3, and January term is going to be around June of 25 and August of 25 for as far as like when those dates are officially released. So I apologize, the dates are incorrect on the screen. It's actually for August entry is September 10th, January 7th, round 2, and April 1st for round 3. I'll make sure that these slides are corrected, but those are the dates that are for the new application cycle. So September 10th, round 1, if you're considering it, mark your calendar for that date and make sure that you have everything in line, including letters of recommendation, by the deadline to make sure that you have that your application is considered for the round you are targeting, and not to be pushed to the next round, which could happen if you don't have all the materials put together for your applications. So as far as criteria, what Columbia is looking for, achievement is really important. So of course you want to demonstrate. I mean, you saw that in the average class profile in terms of the GPA is concerned. Academic performance is important, but also professional success. So they do want to see that you have succeeded in the careers that you've had thus far, because that is indicative of your future potential as well. Leadership is also important. you are in a very large class, so having social intelligence, your self-awareness, and consistently evaluating your behavior in terms of what needs to be improved, what areas you know that you need to develop is going to be very important, and that's going to show up in the way you write your applications, the way you talk about your experiences that you've had, and in terms of also what do you look to gain out of business school, recognizing that you are not perfect, and recognizing what needs to be developed is going to be an element that you have to capture in your application to Columbia. Um, Obviously, this is a very large class, so having the ability to work in teams is going to be important. You have to demonstrate this through your past experiences. Even if you don't have necessarily a large team yourself in terms of the work that you do, showing across department collaboration can really help demonstrate that you are the kind of candidate that Columbia Business School is looking for. And then finally, although this is not part of their quintessential evaluation criteria that they talk about, this is something from that I've noticed in my 8 years working in this industry, is that they really want individuals who understand the program's offerings in terms of not just what Columbia specifically offers, but also what opportunities you have and you can leverage because you are in New York City. Columbia does see itself as a part of New York City, and therefore you coming in knowing that there are opportunities there, and how you plan to leverage those is going to be an important component of your Columbia application, and it's something that you definitely don't want to miss talking about. Excellent. So how are you going to approach to showcase all these characteristics in your applications? Sometimes this can feel really overwhelming in terms of, all these criteria. Then I have to be authentic. Then I have to tell my story. Then I have to, come up with goals. All of this stuff feels like a mountain that you need to climb, and it absolutely can feel that way. I will say start small and build, but recognize that to build you need time. So start by reflecting is the first thing. Reflect on your experiences that you have, and recognize that every component of the application, and I say this every time that we go through this process, but I think it's really important to keep in mind, every component of the application is there for a purpose. They're not asking questions because they want you to work harder, and they don't care about your response. They really are asking questions to get to know you so that they can say yes to you. So give them the opportunity to say yes to you by diving deeper into your own personal journey, your own personal motivations, and then demonstrating that you have the potential to be that future leader. The component, of course, for Columbia is also going to be that you know exactly what the school is going to offer you and how are you going to leverage those opportunities both within Columbia Business School, Columbia University, and New York City, which has so many opportunities, particularly for those who are looking to transition careers, in terms of getting exposure, doing internships that allow you to really be a part of the network, be a part of the conversation in the area that you're interested in. So the application components are relatively straightforward. So we have the education, I could make sure that you have essentially transcripts of all the institutions that you attended, make sure that you will submit your test scores to Columbia. All of this needs to be done before your application submission. You don't necessarily need to send the official transcripts to Columbia, but you do need to have transcripts that you will upload to the portal. Personal information, obviously you're going to be asked a lot of personal details. Make sure you give yourself ample time to answer those questions. And you'll also have an opportunity to talk about activities and achievements and awards. This is in addition to your resume. So sometimes because your resume is going to be one page, especially if you have less than 10 years of work experience, you are going to need to decide what stays there and what needs to go in the portal, right? So you are managing kind of where this information is being shared. So make sure that you are, kind of putting the puzzle pieces together to capture everything that you bring to the table for Colombia. So I see there's a question here. It says, how to convert Indian engineering GPA into a US GPA system. My college does not provide marks for subject in final transcript, only grade for each subject. Only grades are provided for each subject. So I would say don't convert. There's only one school that asks you to convert, and that's MIT. If you're applying to MIT, then you need to convert those, and you can look online to, if your grade is A, B, or C, what is its equivalent in number, and then make that conversion. But do not include converted scores if they do not ask you to do that. Include your GPA or CGPA rather, that the school provides to you, or if you have a class rank, that's a way that you can talk about that, right? So if you are, if you follow the British system, then use that. If you have a, 8.6 out of a 10 CGPA, include that, but you can also talk about your rank. So if you're top 10%, top 5%, top 20%, top 1% of your class, that is the more accurate indicator of your academic aptitude. Excellent. So let's continue. We have actually one letter recommendation for Colombia and several essays to respond to. So we're going to focus on letter of recommendation as well as essays in this application. So one letter recommendation that follows the GMAC common letter recommendation questions. These are essentially how does the candidate compare to other well-qualified individuals in a similar role, and then tell us about a time that you gave the applicant constructive feedback, what was their response and what was the outcome. So if you hear the questions, you recognize that the person writing the letter recommendation needs to have an intimate understanding of your contributions and your experiences in order to be able to write effectively or write a really strong letter recommendation. I strongly suggest that you ask immediate supervisor, ideally your current immediate supervisor. That is the ideal person to write the letter recommendation. If not, maybe the previous supervisor or someone that has witnessed you in projects, has managed your work in a particular project, even if they're not your official manager, because they will need to be able to answer both these questions. If you are a reapplicant, you need a new letter recommendation. So keep that in mind if you are going through the reapplication process. So 1 second here. Okay. So the first question that you will be asked to respond to is essentially through your resume and recommendation. We have clear sense of your professional path to date. What are your career goals in the next 3 to 5 years, and what is your long-term dream job? This is essentially the quintessential goals essay, and you do need to have a very clear idea of what you're going to be doing. What are your plans essentially, and why are those your plans? And then how are you going to be going through the journey? Which means you need to understand, you know, what you need. So that reflection of what you need, understanding yourself, understanding your behaviors, understanding what you bring to the table is going to be important in terms of what you currently have, but then also what you need to develop in terms of becoming that professional that you aspire to become, right? Otherwise, it becomes you know, an application where you're just sounding like um, the application will come across sort of very generic and not really in depth. And because of that, you risk not being able to demonstrate to Columbia that you are the right kind of person that they want in the classroom. So the reflection on your goals should be your first component of any of your school development, because it should support your school selection. It should support your transferable skills in your resume. It should support your essays that you're writing. All these components are going to be an important part, and your goals are the foundation to that. So the first question Columbia asks is about your goals, so you need to have that cleared out. The second part is the second question is essentially the Phillips pathway for inclusive leadership. This is a very long statement, but essentially you choose to respond to one of two prompts in 250 words. The first prompt is describe a time or situation when you had the need to utilize one of these 5 skills in the Phillips leadership, Phillips pathway for leadership, for inclusive leadership, and tell us the action you took and the outcome. You need to break this down into separate pieces in terms of what are the skills, what is one of the skills that you identify with most, and then go into the details of the actions that you've taken. This is really a story. And you do need to capture kind of how are you that inclusive leader, how you demonstrate this in the work that you've done. This can be professional experience, this can be community experience. So you do have an opportunity to kind of share a lot about your background that's outside of the resume that you've included, and obviously the goals that you would answer in question 1. Alternatively, so the second option is please share a specific example of how you've made a team more collaborative or fostered a greater sense of community within an organization. This can be an organization in terms of your professional work environment. So if you've done something like make sure that the analysts have proper training, made sure that you created an environment where everyone had an opportunity to share their perspectives. This is where you would communicate that. But this can also be in the community outside of your professional working environment. So if you volunteer, if you are part of boards or anything like that, you have an opportunity to share kind of how you've made that community more inclusive as well. The third essay is we believe Columbia Business School is a special place with a collaborative learning environment in which students feel a sense of belonging, agency, and partnership, academically, culturally, and professionally. How would you co-create your optimal MBA experience at CBS? And they ask you to be really specific in 250 words. I know this is a very challenging ask, but they are looking to see how much of due diligence have you conducted so far, right? In terms of why are you applying to Columbia? Here you want to be as vivid as possible in your language in terms of how you would engage, what kind of contributing member to your community at Columbia you're going to be. I would start with leveraging experiences where you have been a contributing member in the past. to illustrate that you would be doing similarly at CBS. But of course, you have to keep that brief because all you have is 250 words, which is not a lot in terms of being able to make these contributions. And then there are short answer questions for Colombia. These are 50 characters maximum. 50 characters is like one sentence, essentially. And the first question is, what is your immediate post-MBA professional goal? So literally, you're going to say transition into consulting, something like that. Very, very direct, very simple. The second question is, how do you plan to spend the summer after the first year of the MBA? If in an internship, please include the target industry or industries and or functions. If you plan to work on your own venture, please indicate a focus of business. So as you can see, Columbia is really asking you to be a lot more specific than they in previous years in terms of recognizing why are you going there, because as you know, the MBA journey, it's really fast paced in terms of all the things that you have to do and time management that you have to handle. If you don't have a goal, if you don't have direction, it becomes really challenging to be able to succeed in that environment. So be as specific, clearly outline your goal, clearly have a mental image of what the future holds or the future looks like for you. It's going to be a pivotal, like a really important, essentially component of a successful conversion to Columbia. And then they have the optional essay. This is truly optional. They give you 500 words to respond or to share, essentially. And this is where you're describing any areas of concern. So it could be your low GPA. It could be your test scores. So if you're planning on retaking the test scores, you want to share that in here. I would say, if you plan to retake, don't just share to say what you think they want to hear, if you don't plan to actually take steps to actually do it. So what I mean by that is, if you say, I'm going to complete the GMAT or the GRE 2 weeks after the deadline, and you actually have no plan to do that, that is only going to hurt your application, because from their perspective, you're someone that they cannot trust their word. So don't do it if you're not going to follow through. And if you have essentially, experience, if you had gaps in employment, right, of 3 months or more, you're going to want to explain that here, because they're going to want to know that answer. So any other things that you feel that can be a potential red flag for the admission team reading your application, this is the place to include it. I would say you don't want to include everything, right? So the more potential red flags are going to be in here, it becomes a little bit too difficult for the admission to say yes. If you have low GPA, low GMAT, GRE, gaps in employment, you're not working at the moment because you're studying for the GMAT or GRE, like that's just too many pieces, right? And if that's the case, then wait to develop your profile much further before you submit your application to really have a return on that investment. Okay, so final moments. I know we're like just at the 30-minute mark. Keep in mind, as you're putting together your Columbia application, keep in mind what Columbia is looking for. Make sure that you know your goals. You're very clear in what you want in terms of where you want to go and how are you going to get there. And also how Columbia is going to be able to support that journey. Recognize what Columbia offers in terms of the full spectrum of opportunities. And then keep in mind the components, the characteristics that I outlined earlier as you're drafting your applications. Show your why. So your why, it's not just, I want to get an MBA because I want to get paid more. Obviously, we all want that. But I want to get an MBA for these specific reasons, for these specific motivations. The stronger your motivations are, the more likely it is that the person on the other side believes it, in terms of like they buy into your story, and obviously has greater outcomes in terms of admission. And remember that these essays are about you. Everything that you include at the end of the day revolves around you. So keep that in mind as you're sharing stories, that you are always remembering how you are putting yourself, how you're presenting yourself to the admission team. And then give yourself ample time to polish your materials, to make sure that it's compelling, to make sure that it's clear. Someone who is outside of you can understand what it is you're sharing. Someone that's outside your industry can understand what you're sharing. Very important, and a nuance difference there, that if you ask your friend who also works at the same company as you do, who speaks the same language as you do in terms of jargon, they're going to miss out the not clarity that someone who is not in your industry will experience reading your resume, for example. And then make sure that you're concise. You have limited amount of words. Don't go over that when your submissions. Make sure that you every single word is there for a purpose, to ensure that it captures what you wanted to say, answers the question, and obviously it's clear enough for anyone outside of your industry to fully understand, in terms of what you bring to the table, your contributions, and also your future. Final question. I know we're over time, but I see a question here, so I'm going to answer this one. So I have a low CGPA, 6.89, but I got a decent score in GMAT Focus Edition, 735. Amazing. Congratulations. That's really awesome. What additional steps can I take to overcome the low GPA? I would say depends on how long ago you were in college. So if this was, more than 5 years ago, obviously you have to explain what happened in college. So you're going to have to do that. I would say the way you can mitigate this, but it's going to take you time. So you may be running late in terms of round one applications, but consider Harvard Business School's CORE, CORE. It's a pre-MBA preparation course certificate that is going to really essentially demonstrates to the admission team that you have the capabilities today to be successful in your future. That is a 12 to 17 week program that I think they have something starting in June or July. But even if you enroll for it, it's intense in terms of the amount of workload that it requires of you. I think it's about 10 hours a week of study time. But you can take that, be in the course when you apply in round one, and share that you will be completing that course by, whatever amount of time you have left until completion. So that can help them, feel that you will be able to succeed. You graduated in 2017. So that's 7 years ago. So your CGPA, excuse me, I don't know what that was. Your CGPA is going to be less relevant. Your GMAT focus edition score is amazing, but I would still take a class just to be on the safe side in terms of being able to demonstrate that you are capable of succeeding at a top-ranked institution in the United States. So with that, we're going to get this session to a close. Join me next week. I will be talking about Wharton, and we can go into, some of the questions that you have about Wharton there. And, like I said, if you want to have a conversation with me, just let me know. Reach out for a free consultation. Otherwise, I will see you then, and good luck with crafting your Columbia Business School application. Thank you. Bye-bye.